All right, my friends, welcome again to another SoCast webinar, one of my favorite times of the month. I love sitting down with all my friends out there and going through these webinars. So I'm hoping, as always, we can provide you some excellent value today, some great insights to help you close more deals with some strategies to help your sales team succeed. It's a little bit of a different webinar for us, as we're going to sort of treat this almost as if high-level sales training for all of you, and definitely provide you some insights, ideas, and hopefully some tactical things you can take back to your sales teams to impart upon them to help them close more deals and have some more success. So we're very excited about this. Welcome. My name is Eric. I will be your host, and let's get right into it today. So before we get started, as always, we just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. Please feel free to ask questions throughout the webinar. In the sidebar of the webinar tool, there should be a tool for you to ask questions or interact, or let our moderator Shay know if you're having any technical issues or anything like that. She would be happy to help you. But we look forward to any questions. Obviously, we'll do our best to address them in the next 24 hours, the next business day. We won't be addressing them live, but to set expectations, we will take those questions seriously and get back to you. Next, please tweet your thoughts out about the webinar. You can use our Twitter handle @SoCast, and you can also reference hashtag digital dollars, one of our favorite hashtags. So definitely, please feel free, good, bad, whatever you think, share it out into social. Again, I'm your host. I head up sales and marketing and have a tremendous amount of sales experience that I'm going to be bringing to you today, and I'm excited to share that with you. Before we get into the real meat of it all, I just wanted to tell you that this webinar is brought to you by us truly at SoCast. And our mission is to really help radio broadcasters transition from a traditional radio broadcast business to a thriving digital business. We do this with our integrated SaaS-based, which means cloud-based content management system and advertising platform for broadcasters. We are built specifically to help broadcasters, both from a technology standpoint, as well as from a DNA and infrastructure standpoint. We are really prideful in making sure we are out there to help all of our broadcast partners. We offer website content management solutions, mobile app solutions, of course, our digital advertising solutions, if you are doing any digital, both owned and operated, as well as any ad extensions such as geofencing, retargeting, geo-targeting, targeted display, etc. We can help you with Alexa voice skills to get back into the house. We have a social relationship management tool, and much like today's webinar, we are always happy to help with any digital consultation from both an audience engagement perspective as well as from a sales management perspective. And this webinar will be very heavily sales management focused. We are very proud of our growth over the last 5 years, and we have thousands of radio stations relying on us, from large markets to very small markets, broadcasters of all shapes, sizes, digital sophistication levels, and we can definitely help you all out there, whether you're our existing partner or whether you are looking to grow and make some changes and really get a solid digital foundation underneath you. So, what are we going to be covering today? Well, with so much unpredictability in the world for salespeople, given the current environment and pandemic and just geoeconomic forces, growing pipelines and closing deals are really harder than ever. What we're going to cover in this webinar is really designed to walk you through some strategies and tactics that will help you hopefully grow your pipelines, build meaningful relationships with your prospect, and of course, ultimately endeavor to help you close more deals. Some of the things we're going to cover are some tactics and strategies around increasing your prospecting productivity. We're also going to talk a lot about building a solid foundation and controlling your sales process. We'll briefly touch on some ideas around key performance indicators for your sales team. And lastly, we want to talk a little bit about helping you prepare your digital revenue toolkit for the next year. So let's get right into it. The first step in any productive salesperson's day should be their time management. And productive time management is essential for success within the sales environment. Either you run the day or the day runs you. There's a great book that we really use at SOCAST and that I've sort of grown up on and been educated on called Fanatical Prospecting. It's not written by Jim Rohn, but it is an excellent book by Jeb Blount. Jim Rohn is quoted in there, and an excellent sales leader as well. But it really comes down to how you plan your days and how successful to make you very successful in creating both efficiency and productivity. And it's those two things that are the name of the game for an effective and successful salesperson: efficiency and productivity. So step one in making sure that you are an effective salesperson and an efficient salesperson is making sure you're planning your days with time blocking. There are some real critical things to help you be efficient and productive with your prospecting time. First, we advise you to schedule all of your daily activities in advance in your calendar. And this covers everything strictly, and doing it strictly with call blocking for prospecting, call blocking for funnel activity, that would be your existing and active sales in the pipeline, and blocking time for non-sales activities independent of your prospecting activity. That is for doing research, presentation prep, producing contracts, doing any CRM data entry, reporting, and of course, just general in-house email responses. Anybody who sort of manages these in a hodgepodge way is going to find that they are easily distracted, pulled off task, and not really creating that situation to be both efficient and productive. It's also very important to organize your days by breaking it into golden and platinum hours. Your gold hours are your power hours. That is your dollar generating activity. And that is a great way to think about it. Your golden hours are those premium hours that you're going to be doing outreach to, prospecting, setting up meetings with new prospects. And then the platinum hours, which are essential non-selling activities, which I've listed above, are also very critical. But again, breaking them up into those two sort of micro sections is a great way to think of how you organize your days. And lastly, stick to your time limits. If you block off something, stick to it. Don't deviate from the plan. Stick to your guns. If your boss or somebody comes up and tries to pull you aside, do everything you can to make sure you are laser focused on the task at hand. If it's the golden hour of prospecting, don't be distracted. Stay on top of it and be willing to say no. So let's talk a little bit about how you are protecting those golden hours. Prospecting is hard enough work, but it is essential to every salesperson's success. It is hard. It is obviously, in a million interviews I've done with salespeople, everybody tells you they love cold calling, but let's be honest, nobody loves sort of picking up the phone, cold calling, do cold emails. Most salespeople are extroverts and love that personal interaction. But regardless, these golden hours for prospecting are critical to filling the pipeline. So how do you protect these golden hours? Number one, minimize non-revenue activities. Again, really hive off time for those platinum hours. Make sure you are getting them done. They are essential. It's not that we're diminishing them. It's just they aren't the golden hours that are going to be dollar producing. And with that said, adopt a CEO mindset. That means focusing on revenue generating activities and prioritizing them. Make sure that every salespeople is encouraged to think like a CEO of their own little sales business. If you do that and they're focusing on generating dollars and keep their eye on that prize, that will certainly help them in protecting their golden hours. One of the most interesting things I've heard from a sales trainer by the name of Jack Daly, who is an excellent sales trainer. You can look him up on the internet with all sorts of YouTube videos and subscribe to his newsletters. I've actually seen him speak in person. And one of the first things he said in his seminar that I attended most recently was he asked the room to tell us what they felt their most productive day was. And this is a group of executive and C-levels, and everybody's coming up with Monday, Wednesday, the third day of the week, whatever, all sorts of answers. But his response was very interesting. And it's treat every day like the day before your vacation. Now, why is that? It's because that if you treat every day, if you think about the days before you're going on vacation, where you are in a mad scramble to check everything off, to get all of the people in your team communicated to and organized about while you're away, and you start delegating, you are automatically, in order to achieve those things, going to start to say no and put prioritization on the highest value so you can get out that door and on vacation and not feel like you have a ton of loose ends to tie up. And it's those days before vacation where you are most likely to be your most productive, because you're in that mad scramble to finish off everything before you leave. So treat every day like that and be willing to say no to non-essential activities. Prioritize what is most important so you can figuratively get out the door without feeling bad that you've left anything hanging. And make sure you're delegating. I've really tried to subscribe to this notion as a very critical element for me in my day-to-day activities. And saying no is a very critical thing if it's not going to be revenue generating. Avoid all distractions. Don't get derailed by your phone. Don't get stuck in your inbox. People tend to want to get stuck in their inbox as emails pop up. When you are doing your prospecting activity in the golden hours, ignore all of those things. Nobody is expecting a response instantaneously, at least in 99% of the time. Salespeople who get trapped in their inbox or respond to every ping on their phone are not going to be successful. It's so easy to get derailed. Turn off your phone. Encourage salespeople during these golden hours to put their phone in a basket at the entry point to the room or in their room to make sure that they are not listening to every ping and getting distracted. Cell phones off, stay out of your inbox. And if somebody is trying to derail you or pull you somewhere where it's not going to be revenue generating, say no. Remember, being busy and being productive aren't the same thing. Salespeople are very good at looking busy and responding to emails instantaneously and having their cell phone going and having their computer going. That is not productivity or efficiency. Again, looking busy and being productive are definitely not the same thing. And remember, nobody is too busy. It's just a matter of prioritizing. I hope nobody out there, I couldn't find the actual source to this out there. There's a million of these on the internet and of course Google, but I hope nobody will turn me in for copyright infringement. Thanks in advance. Another critical thing for successful salespeople is to see beyond the targets and quotas that are set for them. There's something called the Parkinson's corollary. And the Parkinson's corollary is that work tends to expand to fill the time allotted for it. What does this mean? So if you tell a sales rep that they have to make 20 calls in an hour, they will find a way to fit 20 calls into an hour, even if they have the capacity and time to make 50. So rather than thinking of how they will make sure as a natural human sort of response, people generally fall into the Parkinson's corollary rule there and corollary. The best way to do it is to encourage your sales team and really make sure your sales team is embracing the Horstman corollary, which is the inverse of that, which is work contracting to fit into the time allowed. If you tell somebody that they have to make 50 calls in a given hour, they can find time to do that. So make sure that you are challenging your team and yourself to stretch your results beyond your targets. Thinking beyond that will definitely help. If you simply set easy targets or targets that are very low in reality, people will tend to find a way to make that happen within the times that they have allotted. And lastly, focus on one task and one task only. I'm just going to say it. We all suck at multitasking. We really, really do. People cannot multitask effectively no matter how hard they try or whatever they attempt to do. The reality is that in order to be effective and efficient and productive, you should only be focusing on the one task. As we said, when you're in the golden hour, a slide ago, make sure you are laser focused on that golden hour and the task is 100% committed to prospecting and outreach to new lead generation and to generate new dollars. The reality is if you argue for your limitation, sure enough, they're yours. If you say you can only do a certain amount in a certain time frame, of course, that's all you'll be able to do. The next tactic to really help you increase productivity and to get your sales teams to increase productivity is to make sure you are measuring and modifying consistently. We highly recommend, and at SOCAS, we utilize a time tracking mechanism to monitor, and we monitor it frequently to determine how much activity can go into a set time frame. And we use a few different tools. We utilize a CRM, we use Google Calendar, we also have a worksheet, and we use these in different ways. But it is definitely essential that you have some means of tracking the activity level and track the activities that your teams are actually where they are spending their time. That way you can evaluate if they're spending too much time just doing what isn't revenue generating work, which is their primary goal, to deliver return, to deliver dollars, to deliver a return on investment. You can determine if maybe that you as a sales leader are bogging them down with inefficiency, with unnecessary tasks that can maybe be taken off their plate or deprioritized. This is very, very critical because you want your team and your sales reps to be able to focus on those golden hours with minimal impact and achieve all of the platinum hour work. Monthly evaluation of your time spent should be spent evaluating how much time the sales reps are doing new sales prospecting activity, active deal management, account management, just sort of keeping the lights on, general things, and reporting, planning, and just general administration. And you should be consistently modifying your targets based on that activity rate and impact on results. Are they meeting their requisite meetings and presentation quotas? Are they setting up enough calls? If their activity levels aren't high enough, likely these are going to falter. So you need to figure out ways to work with your team to make them more efficient and productive in order to achieve the thresholds that your business needs. Again, we'd be happy to provide you with a simple planning document that we use internally to plan your sales team's time. This way they can block times off. This is obviously more of if you don't have a CRM that actually will do this for you, there are other ways. You can use a document like you see on the right there. It's a simple call planner to help your sales team track and plan their time over the course of the week. And it will allow for you as sales leaders to measure and compare their plan to their actual output, so you can determine how you can increase that productivity and efficiency. And I continually come back to that on an ongoing basis because that should be what every sales rep thrives for. Another great tool I'd be happy to provide all of our attendees today is the 8 Habits of Highly Productive People, and it covers off most of what we've said in the previous slides. Just making sure that they're focusing on revenue generating activities, that they're taking breaks just to keep their energy levels up and that they're focused. They're removing productivity pit stops, things that limit their productivity, turning off their phone, staying out of their email, and dedicating committed time for responses to inbound emails. It's important that there's a lot of fun and activity within the sales environment too, because generally with extroverts, they need a high degree of, inspiration and activity. So keep them going. Create barriers to entry. That means, again, being able to say no and making sure that you are really focusing on those revenue generating activities. And make sure you're planning your days out to optimize those time pockets. When you set timelines, set them and follow them. Don't deviate from them. Work with the plan. You can always adjust it the following week to meet the needs and the key learnings that you have from the previous week. And lastly, automate everything as much as possible. Automate, delegate, outsource. That means using your CRM to set up workflows and sequences so you can follow up with clients and have preset reminders for you as to who you should be following up with and when. That will also help a lot of manual or spreadsheet management. These are all very critical things to make sure that your salespeople are as highly productive and efficient as possible. Some benchmarks that you can set. Commit 4 to 5 hours every day. Have your team commit 4 to 5 hours every day to new prospecting, and this would be an average. If they can do that, the pipelines will remain very solid. Work 2 to 3 hours towards active deals and non-revenue related activities, the more platinum hours. And again, this will change day to day, so work based on averages, but it should be, roughly, a 60-40 rule for the day, from the golden hours to the prospect to your more platinum hours. We like to set sort of an objective, and you can come up with different frameworks. This is just an example of one, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 objective. Make sure your targets have something that is very communicatable to the team, something like you got a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 objectives. You know, you have to book 5 meetings, 4 customer needs analysis, 3 presentation, send out 2 agreements, and get 1 sale every day or every week, whatever the objective is that's realistic for your team. It does not have to be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but coming up with something that's easy, catchy, something you can sort of put on the whiteboard and on the wall that will give everybody a very clear and realistic objective. And establish realistic but aggressive targets for yourself and, of course, for your sales team. How many meetings a week? How much activity do they have to generate each week? Make it very clear for everybody to understand what they are striving for. And again, make those goals and objectives realistic but aggressive, so they're always stretching themselves. Step 2 with a successful salesperson is making sure that they know how to build a very solid foundation for a successful sale. And we're going to cover 4 critical pillars for sales success. Setting a solid foundation is very critical. And, you know, I think that there are some things, you know, while these may be things you'll see in a lot of sales presentations and trainings, I don't think it's ever I don't think it can ever hurt to remind everybody of these. The first thing is earn your prospects respect. I was training a prospect, you know, over, you know, a couple of years ago, and he came to me and he said, you know, I'm having a lot of trouble at the negotiation phase. I am really struggling with trying to get the prospect to buy in. And my immediate response was that the problem wasn't that their negotiation tactics weren't sound. It's likely that they hadn't earned the prospect's trust from the onset at the foundational point to earn that business. And that is a very critical thing. If you start with a solid foundation, by the time you get to that negotiation phase, you will not have a problem doing 2 things. 1, asking for the sale, and number 2, getting the required feedback from that prospective partner on what is holding them back. If you have open dialogue and you've earned that trust, that point of the sales cycle, that phase in the sales cycle becomes all that much more easy. Without your prospect's trust, you are going to have a hard time getting those hard details out of them, getting their responses, getting their objections, getting their feedbacks, and ultimately being able to ask for the sale. It's very important that in order to earn the right to ask for the sale, you've earned your prospect's trust early on in the sale. Setting and aligning on expectations for the sales process early and very clearly, being able to articulate how the sales process works and what the prospect's expectations should be is something that's frequently overlooked by salespeople. Making sure that they know their prospect as well or better than themselves. Making sure, of course, that they know the industry, that they know what their prospects' needs and challenges are. And this doesn't come from just pre-call research. Some of it will, and we'll talk more about this over the next few points in the presentation, but also making sure that you are constantly listening for feedback and cues and challenges by that. So you have a very clear picture by the time you do get to that negotiation phase of what they need to achieve their objectives and ensure that you have checked every one of their boxes. And get aligned on seeing the value. What boxes do you need to check to ensure that you can ask for the sale and get to that final negotiation point? So some of the key contributors to trust really come down to 4 different elements from, you know, if you break it down to the simplest terms. First is propriety. Second is competence. Third is commonality. And 4th is intent. Let's talk a little bit more about these. So propriety is how you can control external perceptions. This is making sure you're dressed the part. You look professional, you're shaved, hair is not scruffy, all of these things, that you fit the role that the professional role that the buyer expects from you, that you're prepared and you have a clear understanding of their business, and that you have done your research. You're not walking in blind and pitching, just randomly. I always, when I'm training my sales reps, I always use a car sales analogy, and that's, you could have a woman in a car showroom that's looking at the two-seater sports car and the convertible and looking at it, and then the sales rep walks up and just starts data dumping, information dumping on that car without even asking a question, but without doing proper research to just realize that that woman may just be dreaming and that she actually has 5 kids that she has to get to hockey or soccer or football practice every day, and that she's more worried about her young kids and safeties and where car seats will go and how wide the doors open. Obviously, you have to be prepared. Lastly, you want to be able to provide applicable materials to that prospect. So making sure that you've prepared your sales sheets, that you're coming with your call plan in advance, that you have clear vision of what you expect to be able to sell them and what will make them motivated. Confidence in the way you communicate and generate and illustrate and articulate your experience. You should always be speaking like you've been there a million times. Confident, not salesy, but really solution focused, and always listening more than talking. Commonality. Remember, it's very important that you're not just there to hit them over the head with the sales, that you want to build a personal relationship and a professional relationship with them. You want to find shared interests, beliefs, and values, both around the industry and to help their goals, but also around their personal life. Making sure you have that commonality will definitely reduce any friction you have and increase the levels of trust. And making sure that you've displayed a genuine interest in the customer's well-being, that your intent is to make it all about them and how you help them through a great demonstration of empathy. Remember, it's hard to talk your way into a sale, but very easy to talk your way out of a sale. Very important to be a great active listener. The second tactic that needs to be adopted by and embraced by every successful sales representative is setting expectations early. Use the 3 Ps as a great framework: the purpose, the process, and the payoff. Why are you here? What are you doing there? How will the process work? What should you expect from the client, and what can the client expect from you or the prospect? And how, most importantly, will everybody benefit from spending time together? That is really critical. In sales, people often get sheepish in that they are absolutely trying to sell something. No, there's no shame. That's what you're there to do, but you definitely want to be able to articulate how your prospects will benefit from spending time with you. And you want to establish mutually agreeable timelines, as well as mutually agreeable objectives and goals for that process. You want to outline very clearly that what the first step is, after that, what the second step is, what the third step is, and then the 4th step. The average sales cycle and the average sale phases are 1, sort of the general introduction and the qualification. Number 2, getting a clear understanding of the prospect's need. 3, doing some sort of product presentation or solution presentation for them. And number 4, presenting them with a proposal to earn the business and closing the opportunity, if we break it down in the simplest of terms. But you want to establish how those timelines, mutually agreed. You don't want to force it down their throat. You want to ultimately come up with that timeline together with your prospect. And once you have that, you want to share a work back schedule, whether it's a document or just in an email, of tangible milestones and who owns what. Perhaps there's contracts that they have that they may need to expire and you need clarity on that. They need to deliver that to you. But you want to set up, based upon that previous timeline that you've agreed to, a little bit of a roadmap as to, and critical path as to how you and the prospect will get to the ultimate decision-making end goal. And there's great ways to give presumption of control. You really want to give the opportunity that the client is really in control, and in order to maintain control of the sale. So you have to be flexible and adapt on the fly. If you're willing to present, do you think the end of November is a realistic timeline, and they say no, we're thinking more the first month, the first of the year, you can adapt and be flexible on that. But you want to definitely give them the presumption of control throughout the sales process. And again, we've talked a little bit about knowing your prospect and their organization. Before you do anything, you want to research before you outreach. You want to understand what current marketing activities they may be doing, who their competitors are, who their current suppliers, if you can determine that, are, personal preferences and achievements, if you can find things about them on LinkedIn or from the Better Business Bureau, or awards they may have won within the industry to talk about and celebrate with them. To generate some commonality with them. What is their level of digital sophistication, or how invested are they in digital or in the advertising solution and marketing solution you're selling to them? And what is their target audience? Who is their target market? And again, you want to listen more than you talk. You want to really read between the lines and use active listening. And again, you're not collecting this all at once. It's not an interrogation, a discovery, or needs analysis call. It's really about collecting information throughout the various stages of the process. But ultimately, you want to clearly identify any pains and objectives that they have, what their preferences are. You want to be able to articulate, you want them to articulate how their preferred buying process and how that works and who should be involved in it if it's not just the CMO or the store owner or the restaurant owner, whoever it may be. You want to understand what's their track record with other suppliers. Have they been with somebody for 20 years? That's going to make them unlikely to move, and you're going to have to find a means to get them to move. But it also tells you a lot about their loyalty and that they may be worth earning, so you're able to earn that partnership for 20 years. The more information you know about that prospect and your prospective client, the fewer surprises you will have at the various points in the sales process. And you want to make sure that all of your presentations at various points, from your solution presentation all the way through the contract negotiation or proposal presentation, is tailored to meet the needs of that specific prospect. It can't be cookie cutter, and it can't just be a one-off. Number 4, another last critical point, is to make sure that you've ensured alignment with the client. And this is really done through a discovery and production of a customer needs analysis, a CNA as it's often called. And this is essential to ensure that you have clarity on what boxes need to be checked for that prospect to move forward with you. Conducting a thorough gap analysis and securing consensus on gaps will really allow you to identify everything you need to do through the sales process. And it will enable you to develop a really concrete plan and a tailored presentation at various points to demonstrate that you are the expert and have the capability that prospect needs to check their boxes and achieve ultimately their end goal. Now, remember, I said the discovery process is really an ongoing throughout the sales process. It's not done at any single one stage, but it's important you prepare advanced questions, obviously, that are open-ended is the best way to get your prospect talking. You want to prepare engaging questions to add and encourage engagement through your product presentation to collect additional and more advanced intel. And you want to definitely, I can't stress this enough, listen more than talk and be able to read between the lines. What I mean by that is not just listening to the fact that comes out of the prospect's mouth, but also to make sure that you are listening for buying signals and any red flags or flags that may come up, any objections they may have. And a last tip is to make sure you're starting with general questions and then move to very specific questions. Everything from their current situation, from their history and background, and then getting more specific into the problems and causes, impact and consequences, and then very specific into the buying roles and motives. So you can really identify what gaps they have and deliver a tailored solution that provides them with the desired results, desired changes, desired advantages that they're looking for, and any personal aspirations as well. Some great discovery questions, techniques that you can use to open up questions. Tell me about, can you elaborate? Share with me on a scale of X to Y, how? How do you feel about that? If you had a magic wand, what would you want to achieve? And what or how would you recommend we proceed? or would you like to see? And again, this is a great tool and question to also give the perception of control to the client, because you want that information. No presentation should ever not have a Bruce Lee quote. So I found this one: the most dangerous person is the one who listens, thinks, and observes. And I think that is very true for salespeople. Those that can listen and come up with solutions are the salespeople who are most successful. 4 deal killers that every sales rep should know about is no relating, no discovering, no advocating, and no supporting. Again, without relation and being able to figure out what their needs are and establishing a rapport, you are not going to have any trust. You are not, if you don't do any proper discovery or client needs analysis, you won't be able to establish the needs. If you're not advocating and finding solutions for your customer is not going to be supported or have satisfaction, and they will likely end up being sorry. The third step in today's webinar is controlling the sales process. And the first step in that, the first tactic, is really creating the right kind of tension. So you want to aim to create a certain kind of tension with your prospects. And that is really made up of 2 different types of tension. The first is task tension, and the second is relationship tension. And what you'll find is over time, as people become more comfortable with you as a sales rep, you will find that that tension really drops. Let me put it a simpler way. People hate salespeople. That's just a reality we all deal with in our lives every day. I deal with it all the time. Hate may be a bit of a strong word, but you get what I mean. People are reluctant to talk to salespeople. People aren't always excited to salespeople. Only one in 100 are you calling somebody or reaching out to somebody and they're like, this is the exact right time. But when you are doing this, people are reluctant. So you need to find ways to break that relationship tension down. It is always going to be high at the beginning, but as you establish yourself as an expert, as you establish yourself as someone who is worth trusting, that relationship tension will drop. The task tension is the opposite of that. And the task tension is really how effective you are able to build urgency and interest in that customer, creating a need for them and a solution for a given problem. And as you are able to do that, based on their personal task and personal motives, you will be able to increase the task tension, meaning the desire to get something done. And task motives can be really broken down into, a few basic buckets. Is it more profit that's driving the individual, or less cost? Is it more quality or output? Is it that they're looking for a way to make their lives easier or have more control over their lives, or whatever they're looking to achieve? Personal motives are exactly that, just more personal motives. Some people want to look good and show that they have control. They're looking for approval or recognition from the C-suite or the executive suite. They're looking for respect within their industry. They want to be seen as industry leaders. And both of those definitely contribute as you are able to identify how your solutions will help them with their task motives as well as their personal motives. You're going to be able to deliver the right type of tension. Step 2 is, are they qualified? I can't tell you how many sales people get excited just by the fact that they booked a meeting and that is really it, and then they go through the whole sales process only to find out that they are not speaking to the right person, that the person has no money, or that the timeline can't be met because they're already with a current supplier due to a contractual obligation, really any number of those things. But the reality is that sales reps need to be educated that not every prospect is qualified. And the reality is it's a huge risk and a huge time waste if you continue down the road with unqualified prospects. So a great methodology to use for qualifying prospects is what I'll call the BANT methodology, which is quite common. You can use it in your own day-to-day. And what you're looking to establish is, does the prospect have a defined budget? Are you speaking to the decision maker, somebody who has the authority to make the final decision? Do they have a need for your solutions, a clear need, and can you meet them? And is there a defined timeline that they want to achieve this? In order of priority, I'd say you definitely need the authority or some means to get to the authority, the person who can make the ultimate buying decision, and you definitely need a budget. You can generally build urgency to pull the timeline forward, and you should be able, as a good salesperson, be able to establish needs and to hopefully create some need. Number 3 is you want to ensure that you have alignment. So what do you want to do? How do you do that? One, you want to document and share feedback with ongoing contact notes and follow-ups. Every time you have a contact with one of your prospects through the sales process, you want to make sure that you've heard them correctly and you didn't miss anything. I frequently use or advocate that you use the things I heard today email or did I miss anything email with a list of what was identified and discussed in that call with clear next steps and objectives from that. Ask hard questions to gauge the temperature. So you want to make sure you're asking those hard questions. What excited that person about what they saw in the presentation, or what didn't they like? What boxes have been left unchecked for them? On a scale from 1 to 10, how well does the solution you've presented meet their needs? And what else could you do to ensure they have comfort to proceed with the next step? You want to ultimately avoid the zone of indifference, because this puts you in a ton of a position of exposure as a salesperson. If you get into that position where there's a low zone of where there's there's some sense that you have that they are not interested, or that you haven't satisfied them to a high degree, or that they have a very high level of dissatisfaction, you want to ask the hard questions. And you don't want to beat around the bush. It's better that you find out when you're feeling it at that point what is holding them back, because you want to solicit that information. And you want to ask and not hope that they are just on board and that there is that high level of satisfaction. So you want to ask questions like, I get the feeling you have concerns, and I see or obstacles about going forward. Tell me about what you're thinking. I'd rather hear our concerns now than pretend they don't exist. And I'll frequently train my salespeople to use some sort of line like this that will help pull that information, because it's better to get it now and handle those objections than it is, if you sort of just beat around the bush with them and don't handle them. Number 4 is making sure as a salesperson you're always staying top of mind. People are so busy these days. People have so many salespeople calling them all the time. It's very important that you're always angling to stay top of mind. So you want to nurture the lead frequently with updates and materials. Sending them things. I recommend every 3 to 4 days, if there's a big gap between your next communications, just sending them a nice passive note or an email or a phone call, or dropping something at their door, a sales material that may help them, or an article or a blog, anything like that you can really, or just something to say you were thinking of them and in the area. You want to confirm all meetings with a clear agenda and meeting objectives at least 24 hours in advance, if not 48. I recommended earlier in the webinar, making sure you're providing like a work back schedule or critical steps to achieving the end goal of getting to the decision point. And providing updates as things change or morph throughout the sales process is very critical. Make sure you're tracking progress and holding people accountable. You're sending reminders if there are outstanding deliverables. And if you have expiry dates on any of your proposals, that you're reaching out days in advance to let them know that things are expiring, and you are, that we do have to update the proposal if we don't make a decision by them. Add value in every communication. Never just check in. You want to always provide something meaningful. It's not best practice just checking in, seeing how you're doing. You can do that, but you also want to provide some sort of article, blog, or case study, industry update, announcement of a new partner, or a success story that may have come. These are all very critical ways to keep yourself top of mind. And my favorite is staying top of mind, the Costanza leave behind. Can always go to Seinfeld for a great lesson in life. And George Costanza always had a great one. It was applied to dating rather than sales. But he said, if there's any doubt, I do leave behind keys, glove, a scarf. In the show that I'm talking about, it was that hat. I go back to her place and pick it up. Date number 2. Now, the great thing about the Costanza leave behind and the way it would work is, if you are unable to answer all of their questions in their initial meeting, it's always great to hold something back so you have something to come back to them with. So you can have a reason to follow up with them and provide them with value. So it's sort of like the Costanza leave behind and one of my favorite sales tactics to stay top of mind. Last, number 5, the Cardinal Rule. Always ask for the sale. This is a huge error in salespeople make, in that they don't ask for the sale. And when we're talking about the sale, we're not just talking about the actual sale, the contract. We're talking about each phase, each stage of the sales process being its own little sale, and making sure that after you've done your first meeting, that you are asking, can we move ahead with a customer needs analysis? Can we move ahead with a presentation, a solution presentation? Can we move ahead with the proposal review? And then, of course, asking ultimately, can we move ahead and solidify this partnership and get you working with us? But making sure that you are constantly asking for the sale, because if you're not, you're losing control and putting it into the control of the prospect to make that decision for you. If the prospect isn't ready to move forward, that's absolutely 100% okay. But it also allows you to ask what may be holding them back, and what you could do to help further advance the sale, so you can solicit that information to move it forward. And you always want to do this assumptively. It's not if, but how, when the customer will buy. It's asking the customer what they would like to do next to make sure that you are always maintaining control. 5 additional tips to control the sale. Ask what kind of sales materials. So when you get on the phone in your initial prospecting call and somebody's like, yeah, just send me through some sales materials. Ask what kind of sales materials. Press them a little bit. If they're not interested, and if they just hang up the phone, they're not interested in talking to you, and that's just a very kind brush off. So push them a little harder. Well, what would help you get a clear understanding of what we do and how I can help you with your advertising needs, Mr. Retailer? Never send proposal reviews without a review of them personally. Never send them just via email and hope that they're going to come back to you. And of course, with the decision maker present. Again, some key ways to create the illusion of control. Ask for an expiry date on the what expiry date would work for you. I will put it on the proposal. What date would work for you? That way you have something to go back and hold them to as a timeline. And tell me how you would recommend we move forward. Again, put them in control so you can move and control it from there. We've already talked about the criticalness of being assumptive and making sure you're just taking it, as an if, not when, or when, not if. Sorry. And good examples of this is, is this a good time? The better way to do it is be more assumptive. The reason I'm calling, rather than saying, I was wondering if, say, tell me who, what, where, or when. Rather than asking, what do you think of, why don't you say, why don't we go ahead and get that set up? And lastly, solicit and encourage objections. Objections are a critical component to every sales process, and they are really there to help you learn about concerns the prospect may have about going forward. They provide valuable insights into where you stand with your prospect, so you can mitigate surprises at the end of the sales process. And don't try to overcome objections, try to handle them. Interpret every objection as a request for more information. Remember, they are a good thing and part of the sale. They are buying signals, and that is a really critical way to think of them. There was a great article today in Inside Radio by Jeff on a webinar Jeff Schmidt from the RAB did, and he really said that if prospects or customers aren't raising objections, it means that the account executive isn't engaging them enough. Objections are the sparks that start our most persuasive and effective conversations, Jeff said. And they simply mean that somebody is interested. Now, your ultimate goal is to get to a proposal and get to the finish line, but so many salespeople throw in the towel too early. Jeff really referenced some great research that said only about 44% of salespeople give up after the first objection, 22% after the second objection, 16% bail on the third, and 10% bow out after the fourth. Only 8% of salespeople continue to sell after the fourth objection, and 73% of clients buy after the fourth objection. If you have that rapport, that trust that you built early on, you're likely to get ahead. Our last section is step 4 in preparing your 2021 revenue toolkit. So one critical trend to know is that obviously with the pandemic, you have all been hit really hard. Advertisers are spending less. Radio is seeing less. Originally, they were expecting about a 1% revenue decline in 2020. That has since been changed by eMarketer to be a prediction of about a 25% a decline in revenue into your traditional revenue specifically. And eMarketer did say that radio will rebound by about 17% in 2021. But that will be a high point as you continue to see your traditional revenue continue to decline over between 2021 and 2024. The good news is that there's an opportunity around digital that traditional media sellers might be overlooking, and that advertisers are no longer spending in online and offline silos. We think at SOCAS that it's essential you start thinking about digital and traditional together and really positioning yourselves as a marketing solution that can deliver both traditional and digital ads for your sales, for your prospects. We believe that it's truly the multi-platform integrated campaigns that are going to drive revenue growth. The traditional spots combined with display and programmatic solutions. And that is how you are going to close that gap between 2021 and 2024. You need to prepare your team to sell a wide variety of inventory, from everything from your owned and operated inventory and programmatic ad tech solutions as well. Everything from targeted display to geofencing to retargeting, to doing SEO and SEM, to doing email management and social media management for them. These are critical ways that radio needs to be thinking and how they can morph themselves. Because the reality is if you're only focused on selling your traditional inventory, you're leaving money on the table. If you're not selling a wider variety of digital solutions to your ad partners, somebody else is out there doing that today. And advertisers are spending. So it's an opportunity for you all to get more share of the wallet and to really solidify yourself as a true partner, marketing partner to your advertisers. So prepare yourself and prepare your team to sell more, set goals and track the results, build your digital toolkits. We can help you with packaging and creating promotions and packages so you can effectively pitch and sell more digital campaigns in 2021. We are very happy to offer a great programmatic ad extension solution that comes with a sales certification program that will help you really drive your digital revenue in 2021. So that wraps up another fun webinar for me. I mean, we could spend hours and hours. I'm happy to do any consultation you need for any sales training. We have a ton of modules we use internally that I'd be happy to share with you and provide some sales training if you think it would be helpful. My name is Eric. You can reach me at eric@socasdigital.com. I encourage you all to book a demo with SOCAS on both our ad extension platform and for our content management and app, or for websites and apps as well. If you book before November 30th, a demo, or sign on with us before November 30th, you don't have to pay until 2021. We have some great sort of COVID pandemic forgiveness things we're doing right now to help broadcasters with their cash flow. We'd be happy to help you. If you want a free call planner and time management doc, just email me. I'll be happy to provide those to you. And we really, really appreciate your time that you spend with us. We'll have another session next month, so stay tuned. We always love doing these webinars, and we hope they're valued. Please send me any feedback you may have and request this presentation. We'll be sure to be sharing the recording with all of you over the next few days once we edit it. And thank you again, everybody, for your time today. Would love to hear from all of you. Have a great rest of your week. Again, you can reach me at eric@socastdigital.com. Thanks so much for your time today, and we'll speak to you again soon.